Hello and welcome to Chef Carter's Cooking Corner. So, today on Chef Carter's Cooking Corner, I am making fried dandelion using two different recipes. But remember, whenever you eat food from the wild, you should probably consult with an expert near you. In other words, don't try this at home without an expert available. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm basically dressing the flowers, which means, preparing them to be fried. I washed them like 3 times, really good to make sure I got rid of all the bugs that may be inside the flower. And now what I'm doing is I'm clearing the little green parts off of the flower itself and trimming the stem as closely as possible. If you do try to like cut the very bottom of the flower off, it'll just fall apart on you, so you have to leave that very bottom part. All right, so I had about 2 to 3 dozen flowers, and it took me like 25-30 minutes to do that bunch. All right, so the first recipe is half a cup of water, 1 egg, and half a cup of flour. And it forms this batter. And the batter really doesn't have a lot of flavor, although the texture of it is nice and thick. Um, I don't know, it took a lot to flavor it up. You're gonna see, I'm gonna put quite a bit of seasoning salt in this, but it really didn't add enough flavor. So I'm like wondering, should I have salted the the flowers themselves or what? All right, so that's the batter. And so I'm gonna gently fold in the flowers. And my goal here was I wanted to keep the shape of the flowers. So, it'd be nice spread out, not fold it together. So I was being very gentle. And I didn't feel like I was being gentle enough with them. So what I ended up doing was switching to a pair of chopsticks and then just handling them with that. And you'll see in just a minute. So while I'm doing this part, I have about a little more than half an inch, not quite an inch of oil, peanut oil on the stove, and I have it over medium heat in an iron skillet. All right, so I'm going to put them flour side down to maintain that flower shape. All right, you see that? And since my oil is not that deep, I will have to flip them over. All right, and I am using metal chopsticks as opposed to bamboo or fiberglass. All right, so it is, keeping the shape of the flowers, which I love that. But the one thing was, like I said, they didn't have a lot of flavor. So I think one thing I would do, because they weren't very savory, I think I would probably do a more sweet application. And as soon as they come out of the hot oil, I would probably dip them in a cinnamon sugar mixture so they're more like dandelion donuts. So I may try that. I have some more dandelions popping up because it's been raining here and the dandelions are just popping up like crazy. And then I have like certain parts of the yard I know are safe because we do have a dog, and you don't want to be eating things from your yard where your dog has been taking care of business. So yeah, make sure where you get your dandelions is clean. And again, make sure you seek out an expert, and they'll make sure you don't get it from a place like if they use pesticides on the lawn, you definitely don't want to eat from that yard. All right, so I got them to a nice golden brown.
Yeah, the ones
Right,
that were in
and
the
like I
cage.
said, that's more like a tempura batter.
Yep.
So I actually thought this batter may make a nice funnel cake. So I may try to make funnel cakes with this batter. Had trouble getting that one. And the oil was really hot too, so it was hard getting in there. Alright, so here's my first batch done for this recipe. And you see they pretty much kept their shape. So I'm going to show you what they look like inside. They're still pretty hot. Right. And as you cannot hear, you didn't hear a crunch because it's very soft. And I was not impressed with it. The flavor was not really that good. My mom really liked these, but I was like, I didn't want to eat another one. I think, yeah, I took one more just to kind of, see, okay, do I really not like them? Was it the shape? So I got one that had a little more texture to it. All right. So I gave you a shot there, what it looks like in the middle. I tried it and I didn't like it. All right. So they were okay. Again, if I were to do this one again, I'd have cinnamon sugar. So now the next one I'm going to use cornmeal mix, and that's a mixture of salt, flour, and baking powder. All right, so this is going to give the dandelions a little more texture. So I took about a half a cup of the cornmeal mix. Now this is not cornmeal, it's cornmeal mix. And then I took an egg with about a tablespoon of water to help soften the egg up, make it a little thinner. I put all my dandelions in there, and I made a few more because I had them. And I figured, maybe my brother would try this. We'll see. Actually, he didn't want to try it. He thought, that's disgusting. Those are weeds, not food. All right, so the one thing I noticed was the dandelions closed up when I put them in the egg mixture. And if you ever notice on cool days, the dandelions will close and then they'll open on warm days and the sun is out. At nighttime, the dandelions close. So I had to kind of open them with my hands and put them in there. So I tried shaking it up, and I wanted to keep the shape of the dandelions as much as possible with this one, but you can see it was kind of a failure there. So I had to kind of work through and shift through and try to get them all covered up. So that's one thing about this recipe. It's a little more difficult to keep the shape of your dandelion. Maybe if I used a room temperature egg or soak the egg in hot water, not boiling, but hot water to kind of warm the egg up, that would have prevented those flowers from closing. All right. So for a few of them, I did try to work it so they were more open when I put them into the hot grease. And so I did dip them all before I started frying. And I think this took me like 3 or 4, no, it was 3 batches of frying. All right. So there I go, dipping and trying to open the flowers. So, all right, so we got that done. Here we go with the skillet again. And then I'm going to dip them in. And be careful when you do that. When I kind of toss them in there, I actually burnt my wrist a little bit because I had a little hot grease pop back up at me. So maybe be a little more careful than I am being. So as you can see, I threw a couple handfuls in. And after the first batch, I realized, they'll brown more evenly if I mix gently as they're frying. So I had a little bit more oil in this pan, and so as you can see, they're kind of floating around, so I didn't need to flip them. I just kind of just mixed them up, as you can see here. And then they all get brown on different sides. So one thing you can do with oil once you've fried is let it cool, and then I take a funnel with a coffee filter and I pour the cool oil into that coffee filter, and I fill up like a little glass jar with the oil, and then I put it in the refrigerator, and then I use the oil as I need it, so I'm not throwing away all that oil because that's a lot of oil. Alright, so that was my first batch, and here's my next. Alright, so you see here I'm mixing so that way they evenly brown on all sides at the same time. Alright, and they don't take long at all. They cook up so fast. I was just surprised how fast they cook up. It only takes a couple minutes. So you definitely don't want to walk away from the stove. Alright, so there's my second batch. The last batch I kind of lost patience and I cooked a little more than what I did for the first two. So you probably should do batches about the size of the first two and not like I did for the last one. Alright, so there's my last one. And so because I did put so many in, the ones on the left side there, they kind of stuck together, but I kept playing with them gently and they finally separated. So I also wanted to see if there was a difference between when I was carefully separating them and making sure to try to have that flower shape as opposed to however they went into the pan and cooked, even if they were like halfway closed or closed. Would it make a difference? And actually it doesn't. They taste the same whether they're wide open or closed. So, and the texture, when you cook it this way, the texture is very similar as well. All right. So like I said, you don't want to walk away because these things cook up so fast. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and put those into the or onto the plate. And of course, I cover them with paper towels. Alright, so now it's time for the taste test. And so again, make sure you have a professional helping you with this stuff. You don't want to accidentally poison yourself or your family. Let's try not to have to send ourselves to the ER. So, I just wanted to see like the different shapes. You see one is pretty wide open, some are like really tight together. But again, it really didn't change the flavor. And to me, this tasted a little bit like crappie, but not fishy at all. But crappie is not a very fishy fish, if you know what I mean. For those of you who don't know what crappies are, it's like basically they sell them in the store as freshwater perch. But I tried it. They actually were crunchy and had a very delightful texture compared to the first one. So I'm showing you the middle part of it. These are still kind of hot. And just look at that. And these, I wanted to just eat several of them. Although I was good. I only had like 2 or 3. And they were really good. Okay. Well, that's my experiment for the day. Take care, y'all. See you next time. Oh, and before I go, I want to give a couple shout outs. First, for the recipe that I really liked, I want to give a shout out to Hoosier Piper. I got that recipe from watching his video, and he is a fellow Hoosier here in Indiana. So, shout out to him. And also, I got a shout out recently from Will Shaves, and he did a recipe that I suggested he do. He did a recipe where he took Wendy's chili and he put it on McDonald's French fries. So I'll have a link to that video down in the description box as well. So, do me a favor, you know, show them a little love by going to their channels. All right, well, thank you for stopping by, y'all. Take care. Stay safe. Bye bye.